Hey everyone! Today, we're diving back into the seemingly endless spiral of bizarre German World War II experimental aircraft. This particular era is filled with unconventional designs, ranging from sleek flying wing jet bombers reminiscent of the B-2 Spirit, to hastily constructed emergency planes intended for the everyday citizen to take to the skies in desperation. This type of work points to the company, none other than Blohm Voss. We'll be exploring one of their most peculiar creations, a plane that looks like it could have been drawn by an edgy and drunk, yet ambitious enthusiast, the Blohm Voss P 192. With its unusual necklace design, let's just say this aircraft stands out as a unique piece of aviation history. Through the spring of 1944, the Blohm Voss design team, led by Richard Vogt, went all in to develop a new dive bomber and ground attack aircraft. The objective was clear: to replace the aging Junkers Ju-87 Stuka and ease the burden on the Focke-Wulf FW-190, which was being used as a temporary solution in the ground attack role. This period saw the exploration of several design configurations, among which the P-192 stood out. Other designs studied either concurrently or shortly thereafter included the P-193, P-194, and P-196. Unfortunately, despite the innovative approach taken with these designs, none would reach production. The FW-190's role as a ground attack aircraft would ultimately be succeeded by the Messerschmitt Me-262 jet fighter. The cockpit, equipped with a bubble-style canopy, was located at the front of the fuselage, giving the pilot excellent forward visibility, ideal for a dive bomber and ground attacker. Small wings or support structures extended from each side of the cockpit, attaching to wing-mounted guns. The specific purpose of this design is unclear, but it certainly made for a striking appearance. In terms of armament, the setup included 4 forward-firing guns, with the option to add a 5th, if necessary. The standard configuration featured 2 20mm MG-151 machine guns in the nose and 2 30mm Mk-108 cannons in the wings. Additionally, a 50mm Mk-14 cannon could be installed elsewhere. Typically, 500 kilograms of explosives were carried under the fuselage, with additional bombs potentially mounted under the wings. Now let's talk about the quirky part of this design, the engine and propeller. The P-192 would be equipped with either a Daimler-Benz DB603 or a Junkers Umo 213 engine, both generating around 2,000 horsepower. The DB603 was intended for the initial P-192 variant, known as the P-192-1, while the Umo 213 was designated for a slightly different second variant, the P-192-2. This second version featured a slightly reduced wingspan and modified tail surface. You could say these two designs were nearly identical in most respects. One of the most fascinating aspects of the P-192 was its engine layout. Instead of placing the engines within the wings or the fuselage, Blohm and Voss engineers decided to mount them on pylons above the main body of the aircraft. This design choice was driven by several factors, including the desire to reduce drag and improve the aircraft's overall aerodynamics. The P-192 was powered by 2 Junkers Umo 004 turbojet engines, which were state-of-the-art for their time. These engines provided the necessary thrust for the aircraft to achieve high speeds and maintain good performance across a range of altitudes. By positioning the engines above the fuselage, the designers aimed to minimize the aircraft's frontal area, thereby reducing drag and improving fuel efficiency. Vogt's design positioned the propeller partway back along the fuselage, which had a tubular cross-section. This unconventional placement gave the appearance that the propeller cut the fuselage in half. Directly behind the propeller sat the engine, creating a compact and efficient design for the aircraft's power plant configuration. Additionally, this engine layout helped to keep the engines away from potential ground debris during takeoff and landing, which could be a significant advantage in wartime conditions. The elevated position of the engines also provided better airflow, reducing the risk of engine overheating and improving overall reliability. Despite its promising design, the P-192 never made it past the prototype stage. The project faced numerous challenges, both technical and logistical, which ultimately prevented it from entering full-scale production. Several prototypes were constructed and tested, but they revealed a range of issues that needed to be addressed before the aircraft could be deemed combat ready. The prototypes underwent extensive testing to evaluate their performance, handling, and overall feasibility. These tests highlighted some of the strengths of the forward-swept wing design, such as improved maneuverability and lift characteristics. However, they also revealed significant drawbacks, including structural weaknesses and stability issues at high speeds. Blohm and Voss engineers worked tirelessly to address these problems, but the rapidly changing tides of the war and the shifting priorities of the German military meant that resources and attention were diverted to other projects. As a result, the P-192 remained an experimental aircraft, with only a handful of prototypes ever being completed. One of the primary challenges faced by the P-192 was the structural integrity of its forward-swept wings. While this design offered several aerodynamic advantages, it also introduced significant stress on the wing structure, particularly during high-speed maneuvers and under heavy loads. Engineers had to find ways to reinforce the wings without adding excessive weight, which proved to be a complex balancing act. Another major issue was the aircraft's stability at high speeds. The forward-swept wings tended to generate unusual aerodynamic forces that could lead to instability and control difficulties. To mitigate this, the design team experimented with various control surface configurations and aerodynamic refinements. These included adjustments to the tail design, wing sweep angle, and engine placement to achieve a more balanced and stable flight profile. Despite these efforts, the P-192 continued to face significant challenges in terms of reliability and overall performance. The elevated engine placement, while beneficial in some respects, also introduced new complexities, such as increased vibration and structural stresses on the pylons. Engineers had to constantly tweak and refine the design to address these issues, but time was running out. Even though the P-192 didn't make it to production, it's part of a larger narrative about the wild and wacky world of German aircraft design during World War II. The Blohm and Voss design team, under Richard Vogt, was like the mad scientist of aviation, constantly pushing the boundaries with unconventional designs. Remember, this is the same crew that gave us asymmetric planes and flying boats that looked like something out of a sci-fi movie. The P-192 was part of a series of experiments to replace the Ju-87 Stuka and support ground attack roles alongside other designs like the P-193, P-194, and P-196. The P-193 appeared to be a direct derivative of the P-192, with a similar cockpit and wing design but differing in the propeller location, tail configuration, and general size. The length and width of the P-193 were about 1.5 meters less than the P-192, likely to reduce weight and improve aerodynamic performance. The engine remained at the midpoint of the fuselage, but the propeller was relocated to the tail, making it a pure pusher plane. Though pusher props were still relatively unconventional, they were more conventional than the mid-body prop of the P-192. The drive shaft extended down the length of the tail to connect to the tail propeller, raising durability concerns. To protect the tail propeller, the vertical stabilizer pointed down instead of up, with just enough height to extend past the propeller, ensuring that in a rough landing, the stabilizer would hit the ground, not the propeller. Blohm and Voss provided estimated performance stats, predicting a top speed of 298 miles per hour at sea level and 354 miles per hour at 23,000 feet with a UMO 213 engine. Being a ground attacker and dive bomber, the latter stat was less relevant. The gun armament was similar to the P-192, but the bomb armament was greater at 1,000 kilos. Despite the P-193 being more practical than the P-192, it too was swiftly rejected by the German military. While both designs had better specs than the Stuka, it made sense why they were rejected. Germany needed fighters to re-establish air superiority. With air superiority, the Stuka would suffice as a dive bomber and ground attacker. In the few instances where Germany achieved air superiority late in the war, this proved true. The Stuka was outdated, but there were more pressing needs in the German military. While it would have been fascinating to see these planes become real prototypes, Germany made the right call, albeit ruining our fun. How rude of them. After the war, many of the brilliant and sometimes bizarre minds behind these experimental designs were snapped up by other countries. Operation Paperclip saw German engineers and scientists, including those in the aviation sector, taken to the United States and the Soviet Union to work on their aerospace programs. While the P-192 itself didn't have a post-war career, The expertise and radical thinking of its designers certainly did. The Blohm and Voss P-192 might not have soared through the skies or dropped bombs on enemy targets, but it remains a captivating example of World War II era aviation creativity. It's like that super cool drawing in your middle school notebook. Maybe it didn't get made, but it sure looked awesome and got you dreaming about the possibilities. And who knows, maybe somewhere, someone is still inspired by these wild designs, pushing the envelope of what aircraft can be. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments what bizarre plane you'd like me to cover next. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives into the weird and wonderful world of experimental aviation.